He was so dominant that he was awarded the MVP. Keep in mind that he was competing.
God damn! That's a big ass trophy. That can't be the MVP award trophy, bro. Hell nah, bro.
Surround this ultra talented player is that he seemed to care more about his stats than playing as a team.
Oh, Bob McAdoo was one of those type of guys. Groovy tapping in, man. Welcome back to another vid. The mysterious fall of an MVP, Bob McAdoo. Teammate of Pete Maravich. Now listen, man, I heard of this name a few times. I have no idea who this guy is, bro. Just a young bull trying to do his research on the game of basketball, man. Y'all let me know some information about Bob McAdoo if y'all do know in the comments. Before we start, subscribe to the channel if you new. Now let's hop into it.
I've got a label as a bad guy now, and I'm not a bad guy. I just want to play basketball. Things started out so good. Then, sometimes I'd say to myself, how can this be happening to me? Those were the words of Bob McAdoo after playing for his fourth team in 3 years. Everybody was asking the same question that he made to himself. What on earth happened to him? Even Los Angeles Times writer Jim Murray wrote this about this peculiar situation in 1981. Quote, "No one could understand it. The touch was still there. The points were still there. He didn't slug baby seals over the head with baseball bats in the off-season. He was a basketball player, one of the game's best ever, and he couldn't keep a job." End of quote. This still remains one of the game's greatest mysteries. But after doing a lot of digging, I was able to find an answer. Before we get to that, we first must understand just how great of a player he was. In the 1973-74 season, his second year in the NBA, he helped lead the Buffalo Braves to their first winning season since forming in 1970.
Buffalo Braves.
He was once considered too frail to play the center position. By the end of his sophomore season, he averaged 30.6 points on 55% shooting.
30 points? Good God, he was hooping. Damn, Bob McAdoo. And another thing I wanted to point out was, why is he hopping from team to team if he's the former MVP and he's averaging 30? What's really going on? You feel me? What's going on behind the scenes?
15.1 rebounds.
15 rebounds
blocks per game.
3 blocks per game?
Force around the rim. Instead, he was one of the most elite outside shooters in the game. Nobody had ever seen this.
Oh, damn. He ahead of his time. Good God.
Near his size. Bill Russell went as far as to call him the best shooter of all time. On defense, Walt Frazier gave him the ultimate compliment. He said that near the basket, he's almost a Bill Russell.
Damn, though.
In the following season, he took his game to new heights. He averaged the insane stat line of 34.5 points on 51% shooting, 14.1 rebounds, and 2.1 blocks per game.
Damn.
He recorded the 8th most total points for a single season ever. He was so dominant that he was awarded the MVP. Keep in mind that he was competing.
God damn! That's a big ass trophy. That can't be the MVP award trophy, bro. Hell nah, bro. Damn!
Against Kareem, Rick Barry, and Elvin Hayes. He proved that he was already at their level. He continued his strong play the next season, helping the team win his first playoff series. He even recorded over 50 points and 20 rebounds during the playoff game in 1975. In those 3 years, he won an MVP. He finished runner-up in the other 2 seasons, and he won 3 straight scoring titles. He already accomplished so much, and he hadn't even turned 25 years old yet.
Damn!
He was only going to get better. In fact, Buffalo's coach Jack Ramsey mentioned to reporters that by the time Bob McAdoo is through, he'll be the greatest player in history.
Wow.
That was the impression that he left. Then, all of a sudden, they gave up on him. At the beginning of the 1976-77 season, the Braves traded away the MVP to the New York Knicks.
Why they trade him? My boy just dropped 50 and 20 boards in a playoff game. What are we doing? Why they trade him?
John Giannelli and a reported $3 million. John was a player that averaged 7.8 points per game for his career.
What?
Why would they agree to such a lopsided trade? The reasoning behind this move was that McAdoo's contract was set to expire by the end of that season, and negotiations had hit a roadblock. They simply didn't want to risk losing him for nothing. The Knicks, on the other hand, were ecstatic to land the young superstar. They were desperately looking for a big man who could replace Willis Reed, who retired in 1974. They needed someone who could score and rebound. He was going to be able to fill that void perfectly. In 1977, he finished 5th in both scoring and rebounds. In 1978,
his numbers
he
kind of
finished 3rd in
dropped.
scoring and 8th in rebounds.
That's
He
still
was able
tough
to put
though.
up numbers, even while playing with some great talent. He played alongside Hall of Famer Spencer Haywood and Earl Monroe. They had the pieces necessary to win, but they faced a disappointing end to their season.
What happened?
In the second round of the 1978 semifinals, they got swept by Dr. J and the Philadelphia 76ers. They lost by an average margin of
Dr. J.
18.8 points. That's when things started to get ugly. Bob heard that some of his teammates were complaining about not having a big center. Then, he blamed certain players for their lack of intensity. Then others were complaining about rookie head coach Willis Reed, that he wasn't ready for such an assignment. There were a lot of finger pointing. What was their excuse for such an underwhelming season?
Damn.
They had one of the top producing scorers and rebounders in the league. He was paired with 2 other all-star caliber players. How could they only win 43 games and lose so badly in the playoffs?
Damn.
The spotlight was starting to be put on Bob McAdoo. For more insight, check out what Dave Anderson wrote for the New York Times in 1979. Quote, "For all his points, Bob McAdoo never understood that he was sabotaging the team with all his shots. And he had to go when the Knicks front office learned of his recent offhand remark. Mac told somebody, a Knicks official says, that he was not going to play hard until the last year of his contract, which has 2 more seasons to go after this one." End of quote. That made it easy for the Knicks to pull out this next move. In the middle of the 1978-79 season, they traded Bob to the Boston Celtics for Tom Barker and 3 first-round draft picks. The deal took place between the team owners without consulting the general managers or the coaches. That's how desperate they were to move on. After the news broke, this is what Knicks president Mike Burke said about the deal. Quote, "We have come to the conclusion that stars are less important. We have decided to build a winner with a group of players. We will try to have a balanced squad that will play as a team rather than as individuals.
Yeah.
We have not put ourselves in a position to rebuild the team." End of quote. This is one of the first insights into what the major problem was surrounding this ultra-talented player. Is that he seemed to care more about his stats than playing as a team.
Oh, Bob McAdoo was one of those type of guys. Damn, bro. So he was one of them stat chasers. He didn't really care about winning. Damn. Chat, what y'all got to say about this? Is this true? Was he just a stat chaser?
That kind of mentality from a star player
It's not
stops
good.
any team from reaching its potential.
Yeah.
It was an ugly end to his tenure in the Big Apple, but that was nothing compared to what happened in Boston.
What happened?
This was a team and a city that he did not want to play for.
Oh.
He even told the Cooper Showtime podcast that he didn't want to go to Boston because he was hated in Boston, and he felt the same way about that city.
Damn.
Then there was a controversy surrounding him and Dave Cowens. He was the player coach at the time, and he decided not to start him for multiple games. The idea was to work him slowly into the offensive system, but that's not how he took it. This is what he told the reporters during that offseason. Quote, "I don't want to be in Boston because of Dave Cowens. He sat me down because he didn't like the idea of me being there last season. The team didn't have enough talent to keep me sitting." End of quote. The team's executive, Red Auerbach, didn't hold anything back when asked about the deal. This is what he said, according to the New York Times. Quote, "I was violently opposed to the trade. As great of a scorer as he is not a great defensive player, and you don't build with one player. Dave tried to teach him our system, the Celtic way, but he was not interested in learning. He was only interested in his average and playing minutes."
Oh my God. So Bob McAdoo wasn't coachable? Damn, dog. Ain't no way they paint this type of picture on this guy, man. Is this true?
End of quote. This was an arrangement that was doomed to fail. He only played 20 games with the organization, and he was traded to the Detroit Pistons.
Damn, he getting passed around like a blunt. God damn. He going to every city, every team.
He expressed his excitement to play alongside the legendary big man, Bob Lanier. Now, he could play his natural position, the power forward. On paper, it made sense.
That's right. From what I'm hearing, he's been playing center most of his career, and when that's really not his position. His real position is power forward. He was an undersized center, which is why it didn't work out on his first few teams that he was on.
But as the season progressed, they kept losing and losing.
Damn.
After 37 games, they had a 9-28 record, which was the worst in the league. That's when the Pistons decided to end the Bob Lanier era, and they traded him away to the Milwaukee Bucks. That move symbolized that they were giving up on the season. It was time to start rebuilding. Bob McAdoo is known for being ultra competitive, and he wants to win more than anything. He wasn't happy with the way the season was turning out.
So he was
But he reached his
liked
breaking
winning.
point in a game against his former team, the New York Knicks. He played only 15 minutes in the first half, and he was benched for the rest of the game.
Damn.
It was reported that he had an ugly outburst with his coach, Richie Adubato. In the
Oh.
following game, against another former team, the Celtics, he was sat out completely.
Damn.
This was the message that the coach said to reporters. If he's an unhappy player, we're not going to play him. They were serious about this, and he came off the bench for the next 5 games. They later inserted him back into the starting lineup, but he only lasted 3 games. He was added to the injury reserve list and missed the rest of the year.
Wait, so he's a 2-time champion. So when did he win?
He continued battling with injuries in the following season. He only played 6 games with the Pistons, but at one point, he felt ready to come back to the court. But the front office had a harsh message to him. The general manager told him that they didn't want to play him the rest of the year, and they wanted to continue giving the young players time to develop. Since he wasn't following their rules of being present at games, they essentially told him that they were done with him.
Damn.
He was waived by the team.
He wasn't coming to the
A few days
games?
later, the New Jersey Nets decided to pick him up. Bob was anxious to prove
God
that he was
damn.
still one of the best players in the league, but each time he rushed back, he re-injured himself. Fans were getting so impatient that it was reported that he was booed unmercifully. He only played 10 games for the New Jersey Nets.
Damn.
At the end of the season, he was a free agent.
Ugh.
He intended to not play for the Nets. However, they retained the rights to him because he did not give them an offer sheet under the league's new right of first refusal policy. So he sat out the first 25 games of the season as they waited for any potential deals. The question was, will there be any takers? For a while, the phone wasn't ringing. Teams were hesitant to give him a chance.
It's history.
For example, this is what John Steinmiller, the vice president of the Bucks, said about him. Quote, McAdoo is a risk. So many bad things have happened to him. You have to wonder, how much is his own doing? End of quote. The player that some people once believed would be the greatest ever couldn't find a home. It seemed to be a heartbreaking end to what was considered a promising career. But then, the Los Angeles Lakers picked up the phone.
Ooh.
They were willing to roll the dice. As it turned out, they needed a power forward, with Mitch Kupchak going down with an injury. The Lakers were also looking for something to spark this team. They had their own problems that they were dealing with. Magic Johnson and their head coach, Paul Westhead, had an ugly exchange earlier in the year. He was even talking about leaving the team. That led to the Lakers parting ways with Paul. Pat Riley eventually took over full-time as a coach. It was an up and down season for this
I
team.
did not notice.
But once the playoffs rolled around, they couldn't stop winning. They became the first team to ever sweep their way to the finals. The secret to their success was Bob McAdoo. Take, for example, the conference final series against the San Antonio Spurs. While coming off the bench, he averaged 20 points on 58% shooting.
Way to turn your career around, Bob McAdoo. Yes, sir. Hey, man, look, bro, I'm happy for my boy, man. I ain't gonna lie, it was looking ugly. But he came into the right situations with great players in Magic Johnson and Kareem. He accepted his role with coming off the bench, and started going crazy.
Shooting 7.3 rebounds and 1.5 blocks per game.
Wow.
He was their third leading scorer.
That's hard.
There was no other team that had that kind of weapon leading their second unit.
Wow.
He gave this team a whole new dynamic.
Like, you see how so many teams gave up on him? Now look, bro. Look at him. Wow. Way to turn your career around, bro. I like these stories right here.
No one could stop
That's
him.
hard.
The Lakers eventually won the title, beating the Sixers in 6 games. And just like that, Bob McAdoo was considered a winner.
Wow.
By the time his career was over, he had won 2 titles and reached the finals in 4 consecutive years.
That's hard.
Bob McAdoo was surely humbled after going through all those experiences with those teams. Like any other former MVP, they feel like they can continue playing at that level for a very long time. When asked to come off the bench, they rarely take that kind of request the right way. He was no exception. But he changed his way of thinking. He not only accepted that role with the Lakers, but he fully embraced it.
That's hard.
He learned that to win at the highest level, you need to make sacrifices for the team.
Exactly.
He learned it the hard way, but it molded him into something much greater than winning any kind of individual award.
Wow.
And that's becoming a champion. But what about you all? Why do you think Bob McAdoo was traded so much in his career? Do you think it was all his doing, or were there other factors not considered?
I'm going to say Bob McAdoo just had to learn the hard way, bro. Early on in his career, he was a stat chaser. As you can see, he was a stat chaser. But it worked a little bit. He got some accolades for it. He had MVPs, scoring titles, you know what I'm saying? Snagging all those boards. But he started to notice, like, when you're losing and you putting up all those stats, it doesn't matter. You feel me? And he starts to wonder why he's getting passed around the league and why teams don't want him, because he putting himself before the team. You can't do that. You can't. You cannot put yourself before the team. And after him getting passed around for so many years throughout his career, he finally came into a great situation. A good city, great organization, surrounded by legends. Accepted his role, didn't put himself before the team, and he finally got him one. He got him one. He started winning. You feel me? And that's what it's all about in the game of basketball. It's about the team first, bro. You feel me? When you put the team first, good things happen. As y'all can see in this case of Bob McAdoo, bro. This story was amazing, bro. But it's funny how the media tried to paint that narrative on him, and it was hard for him to get a job. But the Lakers gave him one last chance, and he made the best of it, bro. He turned his career around, and now he can be known as a winner. Great story right there, man. Like the video if you enjoyed the reaction, bro. Shout outs to Basketball Universe on the video, man. This was a great video right here, man. Comment down below, man, any videos y'all want me to check out next, anybody else y'all want me to react to. And last but not least, man, subscribe, man. Show your boy Groovy some love. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one, man.